All right, we're going to take a look at 3.5, working with elimination. And in this video, we are going to do more than or less than solving it. And we're just going to talk about how would we set these ones up. So we've worked with elimination where we are where we don't have to change any equations. We've worked with elimination where we have to change a sign. We've worked with elimination where we've had to change one of the equations, and now we're looking at having to change both equations to get them to eliminate. So essentially what we're looking for here is elimination potential between x's or y's. We would not be able to turn a 2 into a 3, and we're not able to turn a 4 into a 5, which means we're going to need to change both of the terms that we have. And it doesn't really matter if we choose x or y. So a few things we want to look for if we have opposite signs. In this case, both of these have opposite signs. So if we have opposite signs, we don't have to change the signs, which is nice. It's one less thing we have to think about. So I'm going to take a look at my x's here, and I'm going to notice that I could turn both of these into a 6. So we're looking for common terms or common multiples that we could change these into to get them to eliminate. So I could turn a negative 3 into a negative 6, and I could turn a positive 2 into a positive 6. And a negative 6 and a positive 6 would eliminate. So for my top row, which I'll do in red, I would multiply everything on the top by 2, because 2 times negative 3 will give me a negative 6. So if I do 2 times negative 3x, I'm going to get negative 6x. I'm going to go through and change everything else. So 4y times 2 is going to become 8y, and negative 13 times 2 is going to become negative 26. So we've scaled our whole first equation up by multiplying 2 to everything. It's still equal. This equation is still equivalent here. So for my other equation, I'm going to have to multiply everything by 3, because if I multiply a 3 to this 2, it's going to give me a positive 6x, and that's what I want. I want terms that are going to cancel out. 3 times negative 5y is negative 15y, and 3 times 11 is positive 33. I've now created terms that will eliminate. I could put these equations together vertically and they would eliminate. Let's try it again over here. So I'm looking at, I could either, and essentially what we could do is we could take our bottom number and multiply it to the top, and take our top number and multiply it to the bottom, and that will work every time. Because 6 times 7 would make 42, and 7 times 6 will make 42. We can also do it with the y's. So I'm going to do it with the y's in this one. I'm going to multiply my whole top equation in red by 5. I'm going to multiply my whole bottom equation in blue by 4. And I don't have to change the signs because I already have opposite signs, so I don't have to include a negative. So watch what happens. I do 5 times 6x to get 30x, 5 times negative 4y to get negative 20y, and 5 times 16 to get 80. For my bottom equation, I'm doing a similar thing here. I'm going to do 4 times negative 7 to get negative 28, 4 times 5 to get positive 20. That's what I want to create here, are two terms that will cancel out. And then 4 times negative 17 to get negative 68. I now have two equations that I could combine to have a term that I can solve for. I'm not actually doing that solving right now. I'm just kind of showing you how we can multiply the top and the bottom. So for this one, I have a common factor of 12. For this, I have a common factor of 6. So I'm going to use my y's again. I could take my 2 and multiply my whole thing by 2 up top. I can take this 3 and multiply my whole equation by 3 on the bottom. When I multiply these out, I do 2 times negative 4 to get negative 8x, 2 times 3y to get 6y, and 2 times negative 7 to get negative 14. In the bottom, I can do 3 times 6x to get 18x, 3 times negative 2 to get negative 6y, and 3 times positive 2 to get negative 6. Notice that I've created 2 equations that will eliminate right here. It's exactly what I want. Okay, let's keep seeing how these work. So for this one, again, I'm looking at my positives and negatives. These are already opposite signs, so it doesn't really matter if I choose x or y. I can use positive numbers to each. So for this one, I'm going to take this 3 and multiply it to the top. For this one, I'm going to take an 8 and multiply it to the bottom. So when I do 3 times negative 8, I get negative 24x. 3 times 7y will give me positive 21y. And 3 times negative 13 will give me negative 39. On the bottom, I'm doing 8 times 3x to get positive 24x, as my hand hits the corner. 8 times negative 3y to get negative 24y, and 8 times 6 to get positive 48. I've created 2 equations, or 2 terms that will eliminate, negative 24 and positive 24. Okay, this one's important because I don't have opposite signs for either of my sets here. So that means that one of my sets, when I multiply, I'm going to have to scale by a negative number. I'll just do it to the top. Doesn't really matter. And then the bottom one, I can use a positive number. And we can either eliminate the x's by multiplying a 2 to the top and a 3 to the bottom, or we can eliminate the y's by multiplying a 3 to the top and a 5 to the bottom. Doesn't really matter. So I'm going to do my x's because my numbers are smaller. So for my bottom equation, I'm multiplying this 3 to everything. For my top equation, I'm multiplying a 2 to everything. So I'm going to say negative 2 times 3x, it's going to give me negative 6x. Negative 2 times 5y will give me negative 10y. And negative 2 times 13 will give me negative 26y, or 26. For my bottom equation, 3 times 2x is 6x. Notice that I've created opposites. If I hadn't used a negative here, I would have positive 6x and positive 6x, and those would not eliminate. They wouldn't cancel each other out. So I needed to multiply negative, and either the top or the bottom would have worked. I picked the top. 3 times 3y is 9y, and 3 times 8 is 24. From here, you could go through and solve by combining them vertically. Your 6's would cancel out. You'd get negative 1y equals negative 2. We would divide negative 1 to both sides to find y equals 2. Then we could take that and plug it back in to any of our equations. Doesn't matter which one. It would work for any of them. I would probably like to use the original ones because they're going to be smaller. Okay. So let's think about some common terms. I could take this 6 and multiply it to the top. I could take this 4 and multiply it to the bottom, and that would give me 24 and 24. One of them would have to be negative. But there's another number that both of these go into that isn't as big, and it's 12. I could turn this 4 into a 12 by multiplying it by 3. I could turn this 6 into a 12 by multiplying by 2. And one of these are going to have to be negative. I'll choose the bottom one this time. So I'm going to go through and multiply these out. The hardest part of picking these numbers, I will help you pick these numbers if you need help with it. 3 times 4x is 12x. 3 times 3y is 9y. And 3 times negative 7 is negative 21. Negative 2 times 6x is negative 12x. Notice what we've created. That's exactly what we wanted to do. Negative 2 times 7 is negative 14. And negative 2 times negative 23 is going to give us positive 46. So I just want you to see how we can change both equations. Now if you notice here, I have two positives, so if I were to try and eliminate my x's, I would have to multiply maybe like a positive 3 to the top equation and a negative 2 to the bottom equation to create opposites. But I already have opposites in my y's, so if I try to eliminate my y's by multiplying a 3 to the top and a 4 to the bottom, then I don't have to worry about making one of those negative because they're already different signs. So that's what I'm going to do. And it'll work either way, but I'm going to take a 3 and multiply that to the top. I'm going to take a 4 and multiply that to the bottom. That's going to turn them both into 12y. 3 times 2x is 6x. 3 times negative 4y is going to give us negative 12y. And 3 times negative 22 is going to give us negative 66. 4 times 3y is going to give us positive, 4 times 3x is going to give us positive 12x. 4 times 3y is going to give us positive 12y. And 4 times 12 is going to give us positive 48. And then what we've created here is if we were to put these together, our y's would eliminate. We're creating opposites. Okay, again, for this one, I don't want to try and get rid of my y's because I have the same signs. I would have to multiply in a negative. It could work, but it's a little bit easier to not have to worry about the signs. So I'm going to take this 4 and multiply it to the top. I'm going to take this 3 and multiply it to the bottom. So I'm doing 4 times 3x. I get 12x. 4 times negative 6y is negative 24y. And 4 times negative 24 is going to give us a negative 96. On the bottom, 3 times negative 4x will give me negative 12x. I've created terms that will eliminate. 3 times negative 4y will give me negative 12y. And 3 times 8 will give me a positive 24. From here, I would be able to combine vertically. These would eliminate. These would make negative 36y. And this would equal negative 72. And then when I divide negative 36 to both sides, we can find that y is equal to positive 2. We could take that and then plug it in for x, or plug it in for y to solve for x in any of our equations. All right, just the last couple here. For this one, I see that I have opposites. So I'm going to eliminate my x's, but instead of turning these both into 48 by multiplying 6 to the top and 8 to the bottom, I could turn them both into 24. That's a common multiple that they have. So to turn 8 into a 24, I would multiply it by 3. And to turn 6 into a 24, I would multiply it by 4. So if I say 3 times 8x, I'm getting 24x. 3 times 3y, I'm getting 9y. And 3 times negative 2, I'm getting negative 6. For my bottom equation, 4 times negative 6x, negative 24x. 4 times 5, positive 20y. 4 times 16, we'll be working with a positive 64. And then we have terms that we could combine. Okay, for this one, I'm going to eliminate my y's just because I'm working with smaller numbers here. So again, I just want you to see that I'm picking numbers, 2 on top, 3 on the bottom. You can just use the opposites. So 2 times 7 is 14x. 2 times 3y is 6y. 2 times 24 is 48. For my bottom equation, 3 times negative 3 is negative 9x. 3 times negative 2y is negative 6y. I've created opposites. And 3 times negative 11 is negative 33. Last couple here. All right, so we have, for my top, let's multiply a 4 to the top, and we'll multiply a 3 to the bottom. That's going to cause these y's to eliminate. 4 times 8, x, is going to give us 32x. 4 times negative 3y will give me a negative 12y. And 4 times 22 will give me 88. 3 times 6x will give me 24x. 3 times 4y will give me positive 12y. Oh, sorry, 3 times 6 is not 24. 3 times 6 is 18. And 3 times 4 is 24. No, it's not. I'm falling apart. I'm working through this too quick. And I lost my page. What was I working on? Right here? That's right. Okay. 3 times 4 is 12. The big idea is that we can put these together. And I should slow down. I'm getting excited because we're almost to the end here. So I can take this 5 and multiply it to the top. I can take this 4 and multiply it to the bottom, and I don't need to worry about signs because they're already opposite signs. So I'm going to get negative 20x, positive 20y, and 5 times 0 is still 0. Then I'm doing positive 20x, negative 24y, and 48. Sorry, 32. And then we can put these together. I started getting sloppy in my calculations toward the end, but the whole idea is that we can change both equations to create a system of equations that will eliminate. And in order to create these, all we really have to do is take one of the bottom numbers and multiply it to the top. So my bottom x number I used on top, and my top x number I used on the bottom. And then we would include a negative sign in either one, not both, but either one, if we have the same signs. If we have opposite signs, we can just use positive numbers.